Hi everybody, welcome back to those who have been hanging with me some time, and welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. I'm Adele Levine, intuitive and medium. All right, so I want to do a little connecting the dots here. We're going to do a video today on different ways to use spirit communication. So basically I want to give you a little bit of a look into different tools and different approaches to spirit communication. The connecting the dots part is that I am finally doing a class in person for all of you that are LA folks at the Mystic Museum. If you haven't heard about it, it's a very big, popular place in Burbank that is oddities and horror and witchy stuff there. And they have almost like 4 stores now, I think. And I'm going to be doing this class in their seance parlor. So if you're in town, it's going to be next Saturday night at the Mystic Museum. You can go to their Instagram or to their website and check it out. And it's going to be a spirit communication class. So there's the dots. And for those of you not in the LA area, if you want to take my class that I'm doing online on manifesting, not asking, let's get into what we're talking about today. So spirit communication, there's so much information out there. There's a lot of misinformation, but there's just so much information that I'm sure it's overwhelming for all of you. And there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's YouTube, of course, and Google. And there's so much out there giving, and I guess even more. Pinterest, I think, even I've heard of people teach things on there. And spirit communication is the idea, and I just want to be clear, it's the difference between, I want to be clear the difference between mediumship and spirit communication. Mediumship is what I call myself, a medium, and I mediate the dead to the living, okay? The dead to the living. The living does not need me to mediate to in reverse, because they can see and hear and feel you. And as a medium, it's like I'm in the middle, they're here, and you're here, and I'm mediating. But spirit communication is knowing how to hear and sense and connect to spirits beyond. And that's not the same thing as mediumship, just to be clear. Because spirit communication is you trying to feel, your grandmother or your friend, and you're trying to communicate with them. Mediumship is also not Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost. Molly, you're in danger, girl. It's a great line and I love it, but that is not mediumship. Come throughout. Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost. And it is also not taking the spirit into your body. The reason I want to be clear is because whenever we talk about spirit communication, people get really scared. That's the first thing. People are very apprehensive and scared because they do feel like they're going to end up like either The Exorcist or like Molly from, like Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost, that something's going to kind of come into their body and all of that. But spirit communication isn't that, for one, and for two, there's all things protection. So let's talk about that before you get into opening yourself up to the other realm. Protection doesn't mean you're protecting yourself from all evil, because honestly, even those things that happen in ghosts and exorcists and all that is very, 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 very rare. And I did a video before on demons, but I definitely feel like I need to do another one on demons and attachment, because I've gotten kind of a lot of DMs about that, and clarifying that it's very rare. So let's start there. Protection is more about the same idea. If you were to put a ring on your door and you're like, listen, I want to know who's like coming at my door. I want to know if I want to let them in because I have boundaries. It's the same idea even as a lock on your door or just closing your door. You're protecting yourself from saying, listen, I'm going to talk to my grandmother, but I'm not saying I want to talk to everybody on the block. And I'm also not keeping my door open for just anyone to walk in. So that's how you have to look at protection. So number one is protection. Cleansing and doing all those things are definitely part of it, but it's definitely you being aware that you need to set boundaries. Whenever I hear people say things like, oh, listen, I have spirits, but we're just hanging at the table, like, the Sixth Sense or something, and we're just talking. And, it's fine. They kind of make it seem like, oh, I don't mind them, they don't mind me. But you can't really do that, because when you do that, you're like, Tom is hanging with you and you're like, hey, it's cool. And then other energies go, oh, they're fine with it. Now you have energies in your house that you don't know and you're not familiar with. And that's what protection is. It's just boundaries. Boundaries. So just know it and see it that way. Have you had the experience where you feel like you felt someone, or you smelled someone, or you even felt hugged, or you got a thought in your head, or a song came on right when you were talking to someone? Leave in the comments below and think on it, because that is spirit communication. Spirit communication is telepathic, so it could be a thought, it could be a feeling. Some people I know somebody who only got smells. Sometimes people start off that way, and the other senses develop, over time. I myself use sight, I hear, feel, taste, and smell, all of them. So that's really what mediumship does, how I use mediumship. So it's important to know that if you're going to open yourself up to spirit communication, protection is just boundaries. You want to set the boundaries. You're not just letting anything and anyone talk to you. You are controlling it, and you got to confirm. Now, spirit communication, people use Ouija boards. Throw those up. And people use pendulums. Can you throw that up? And when they use pendulums, they may use it as a yes or no, like holding the pendulum and letting it guide them. I don't use tools. And here's my thing about if you're going to use tools to spirit communicate. If you're going to use a Ouija board, you're going to use a pendulum and things like that. You got to make sure you know what you're doing. You want to cleanse that as well. And the thing about pendulums is that a lot of times we are influencing it. It's very easy to ask a question and kind of unconsciously influence it, especially if you're wanting like the answer to be yes or something like that. So it's kind of one of those things that I feel like pendulums sometimes work if someone else is doing it for you and they're a real professional about it and they have other things they're doing. I used to go to a reader who used them, and they used cards. They kind of used a few things that kind of backed each other up, but be very leery of people who are just doing the this and the that, and even for yourself, especially with the spirit world. So using tools like Ouija boards and pendulums and spirit boxes and all this type of stuff, that's for sure is something you can do, but legitimizing it for yourself, so validating it and going, hey, this feels like right to me, is important. So spirit boxes is the idea, like people like use them for the spirits to speak through, or those apps. And I'm just going to tell you that most of the time those are very, very hard to use, but if you know what you're doing and you're checking and you're making sure that you're doing all the right things in all the right ways, that's different. I know people who professionally do this, and that's different than people who are just buying something off of Amazon and going, hey, I think I'm going to try it, and I heard somebody say something. Spirit communication is two different ways. I just want you to be clear of. There's ways you use tools, and there's ways where you just want to kind of hone the ability to hear organically and intuitively. And that's what I'm teaching next Saturday, is more about how to connect you to that world. So lastly, I feel one of the best things to do in spirit communication is, 1, to start talking, 2, find your way into meeting the spirit world halfway. So let me explain. People think that we're bringing spirits here, that somehow we're pulling them here, like they're driving here, they're coming to you, but they are in this world with us. It's a realm within a realm all the time. So all you're doing is dialing them up, and you are hoping that you can hear them, not if they will answer, if you can hear or feel them. And how you can do that easier is meeting them halfway. So in other words, they can't fully come here, because they'll interfere in our world, and we can't fully go there because we interfere in their world. So we meet in the middle. And one of the ways you can start doing that is as you fall asleep, kind of protect yourself first and kind of open yourself up to connecting to that realm through the dream state or the dream wake state. Another way is to find ways that you kind of journey, play music, and kind of let yourself journey into this space. That's something I utilize in my classes, but you can also do this at home. In other words, you want to let go. Letting go and meeting them halfway is really the way, not so much meditating, which that grounds you. So you may want to use all of these. You may want to use tools, and you may want to learn to raise your vibration and kind of meet the spirit world in the halfway point, or you just may be one or the other. But the most important thing is to start talking to them and trust when you get that feeling that something is kind of trying to talk to you, something's trying to connect to you, or something sent a song to you and you just felt that it felt right. Trusting your gut in your heart. That is where intuition is meeting telepathic communication. So I'm going to elaborate this more on my Patreon. If you are a Patreon, you can jump over there, and I'm going to give you a little more details, instructions, and little exercises you can do at home for all the Patreon people. And for the rest of you, if you're in the LA area, I hope to see you at my class in person. All right, guys, follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice, and I'll see you soon.